Well, I'm just gonna, well, today's the day. We're going to be real about the realities of social media, the twin talk about social media, and maybe, you know, why social media, what it's like for us. We're just gonna have a real conversation. Right,
Yeah.
Mina?
Oh, yeah. Real, like the good, the bad, the ugly, the confusing, the uncomfortable, the comfortable, and the it's
All of
here,
that.
not going anywhere.
I
Social
should have
media
had
chat.
I should have switched my coffee mug and got like the Grogu. This is all I got. I have wait, where's he at? I don't have a coffee mug, but I got this. You leaving?
Oh,
In
oh,
my it's in Lauren, it's in my room on the counter.
we're just talking.
We're live. I'll be back. Well, you can come back. You can come back now, Lauren, and just say hi. Lauren wants to say hi, Mina. This is we we're gonna think we're like crazy nerdy, like
No, I have that one, the animatronic one at
Amen.
work.
Is it live on
Yes,
Instagram?
yes, we're
It's
live.
not
Please come
live,
back.
live. It's just a recording.
Hi, Amina. Oh, it
Hi.
looks nice on the video.
I know it's because we got Zoom, we got levels of what we can clean our faces up.
I
The
don't know about you. I
reality.
don't have that on. Oh my gosh. The real life of social media. This is what happens. Like you get sidetracked, Mark jumps into the videos. You might have
Lauren
noise in the
jumps in.
background. I'm waiting for like I have a German Shepherd right here and a pit bull. I'm waiting for them to go full on crazy because somebody walked by. That's the life of
Yes,
social media.
but okay, so let's talk about it. So I've been using social media not on purpose since MySpace. And I did just log into MySpace after the previous conversation just to see what was there. So I've been on and the reason why I got on MySpace and I'm trying to refresh it like it's not like in what I'm trying to go look to see if it'll let me see the old content. Maybe it doesn't like me, but just because my oldest who will be 34 next week because I needed to make sure he wasn't condemning himself in high school. So I've been on MySpace since whenever MySpace launched, and then I got on Facebook because when I worked at my first real estate company, the admin in the office said, "Carrie, you should get on Facebook." And I was like, "No, we're not getting on Facebook. I'm on MySpace and I don't want to be there." She was like, "No, no, no, let me show you. You can actually click this button and add your real estate listings." And I was like, "Show me more." Man, I was hooked. Oh, you know what? What else we were on, Mina? Remember the high school had something, not the high school, but there was this product out there called Ning, Ning, where
Oh yeah.
everyone that was connected to a group would sign up. And so Proviso East created a group, an account, and this is how we found everyone we went to high school. Talk about being able to connect, where again we used to go walk outside and knock on doors. So I've been, using social media with purpose since about 2007 or 8. So what
Oh.
about you? Yeah.
Um I remember MySpace thinking, why are we doing this? I feel like I have to. I don't know how. Like I'm logging into my MySpace right now.
And it
Um,
was 2003, like August 1st, 2003, my was launched. And then Facebook was launched a year after, but we couldn't get access to Facebook. And see, when could the old people get access to Facebook? When
I don't remember.
I'm going to look.
Like
Access to Facebook. So September,
was
so
it
public
2008 is
access.
when I think I did it.
So okay, so on Facebook?
Wasn't it
Well,
2008?
well, it
Am I
says it was
wrong?
open to the public 2006, so we were behind. So how do you know? You can see when you started Facebook. Is it on Facebook? Let me go look.
Yeah.
Is
So and I'm in MySpace. So I was like,
that when you started MySpace?
no,
Or
MySpace. Um, I'm in it. I'm like trying to understand it again.
I'm going to find out when I
Definitely
got into.
MySpace. What's the latest? I feel like I should almost um post something on here. Like
I can't get in. It's not letting me see. Like it's like
what are we talking about?
MySpace. I logged in and it's like I keep refreshing and it's like my
No,
everything is
it's having a moment. It is. So you just be a little bit
No, I've been doing this since the last video. So, but I can hover and it says I got photos with Carrie and Mina. I got the Brookfield Zoo and we would go to the Brookfield Zoo in 2003. I've got me, you, and Cassandra Cobbins. I got Lauren and Monica watching kids jump rope. I got Lauren and Jonathan. I got cheerleading.
The last time I
Team.
posted was with you and you posted, I have on here in 2017.
Did it show up? Did it open? Maybe I need to open
It's
this
sort
up.
of having, it's glitchy because it's not showing pictures. But so I remember seeing where I first became a Facebook, like when I started Facebook, like it came up like as in the day, like every year you get an anniversary. So that was the only reason I remember. Like I'm sure you can go into your settings somehow and have
I'm
that
looking. I'm going to
conversation.
look. I'm trying to figure out how.
Because I'm wondering what people think even about Facebook or whatever social media. And I remember thinking, okay, I post stuff. Like there was no rhyme or reason. I remember watching, what's his name, the movie, with the Facebook. Remember it was the Facebook and Zuckerberg and what that looked like. I mean, Facebook kind of took over the world.
It did, yeah. So let's just talk about this. So you said you were just posting and you didn't know what you just posted on the wall.
Yeah,
Of
like I'm
Facebook.
looking at it now and I'm not as active, even though I feel like I should be. And sometimes I'm like, what do I say? You know,
It says in the left sidebar, I configure in the left sidebar, select information and permissions in the left sidebar. Information and permissions. There is nothing on the left sidebar. It's got to be on the right sidebar. Okay, I'll figure out when I joined, but I'm pretty sure it was 2008. That's what I think. So when so you're in the education space. Would you have ever even thought that you should have been posting on like Facebook on purpose? Ever?
I started doing it with purpose when I was a principal and we started
But when
having,
was that? What year
okay,
was that?
so in 2014, I opened up a school in California, an elementary STEM school. And I started posting with purpose, and being cognizant or being very aware of what you put out has to be helpful, not harmful. And I knew that I had to be a model for students, even though it's not that Facebook isn't the one I'm talking about, isn't public, but teachers were starting to be friends on my Facebook page. So I had to remember whatever I put out had to be helpful. And I knew that when I was teaching students about Facebook or social media, I talked about what the law says or what not and what you put out. And I talked about you have to be 13, but I talked to parents. I'm like, you have kids that are on there. And if you don't, they're probably on there and you don't know. Remember Vine and all those things. And kids were figuring out how to have 2 accounts. And I think my kids called it a trap. Like if your parents find out they have one that they can be like, yeah, that's it. See, it's the friendly one, but they were doing other stuff. So I would talk to kids about I said, if you don't know what to put out on Facebook, it should be puppies and kitties. Like that was almost the inside conversation I used to have with teachers. Like if it's not happy, don't put it out there, because if it's harmful, it can cause chaos in the community. Families can be mad at you. And we as educators have what's called a code of ethics, according to the National Educators Association, NEA. And I had to be aware of that. Like, so I was almost not fearful, but really aware. Like, I'm wondering if that's the same way in business or real estate. And even now, like you have to be aware. Now it's changed because I want to talk about today, but
So yeah, the National Association of Realtors has the code of ethics, and you have to be aware of what you post. Now, there are some people that aren't aware. Yes, was our code of ethics changed not too long ago to deal with people that post things that are harmful? Yes. Do I think I think the kitties and puppies is interesting. Like you post, like I always go with it when you post. Do you even know what the ramifications are of what you post. So even in our space, I always tell people don't post about politics because your clients might not hire you again because they might not vote the way you vote. So the kitties and puppies, I had someone tell me, Carrie, if one more person posts about their dog, I'm going to unfriend them. I was like, well, you just unfriend me today. Because the key is that people get to see who you are, see your life on Facebook, the personal Facebook.
Right. Well, and I only say kitties and puppies because
It
who
sounds
doesn't like,
safe.
and who doesn't like a kitten or a puppy? They're just cute. In other words, what's the cuteness factor? And then I even, now we have what we call a digital footprint. And I know we've talked about this before. So when you walk outside, you walk in the dirt or the snow, you have a footprint. It's it and it goes away. Like the rain washes it away, the snow melts. But we now have, like before when we grew up, our footprint was where our house was, our address, the phone book. You could find someone with that big old thick phone book. Now you have this digital footprint because every time you post something, it is like writing on a rock or in a tree, like it's permanent. It is just permanent. But now we have these digital footprints and it's going to follow you where if you Google me, my YouTube channel comes up. I have a digital footprint. And then we have what we call digital shadows, like meaning if you start posting about young children and they're unaware of it, you've given them a digital shadow because it's not their footprint, it's the footprint you created for them. So if you
Ooh.
start posting about other people's stuff, you start talking about other people, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, you are creating a digital shadow because you're talking about other things. So in education, when I, talk about the community, I'm creating a digital footprint and a digital shadow because that's why we don't post children. Like we will get unless we get permission and writing and all that because we have what's called a Family Education Records Privacy Act, like until they're 18 and they may sign, you can't post my stuff. So social media is not just, hey, let's post all these fun things. You have to be aware what you're putting out there. And I do believe we should put stuff out there because if I don't tell my story, somebody else will tell it for me, especially if you're in education, especially if you're a leader in a school. And yes, you should go through your district and all that. I'm sure you're going to say the same thing in real estate, that you should be telling your story and making it where the community sees it. But if you don't,
Either somebody else could be
family's going to
telling
start
it or
telling it. They're going
nobody's
to
going to
start saying
know.
everything.
So you should tell the story because other people will know the story from you. The community gets to know you, your clients get to know you, your friends get to know you, as opposed to someone else telling the story for you. But what's interesting about that is recently I had someone care, they were like, here, you're always gone, you're so busy. And I was like, so is that the story I'm sharing when I tell you that I'm teaching a class, that I'm in another state? Because in my mind, I'm not gone all the time, but we have in the real estate space, when you're a volunteer, like I went to a conference not too long ago, but it was because I'm a volunteer. And that was in March. And then I went to Chattanooga and Huntsville to teach class in and out, like 2 days. So people see the content and they're like, you're gone. Or they're like, how do you post on social media all the time? I'm like, I'm very scheduled because people are like, you're busy. I'm like, but that's just because they just don't know the social media space. And I post on my real estate business page probably every day, but I'm automated. And it's not even my content.
What does
It's
that
because
mean,
I'm using.
automated? Because that's the thing in the education world, even in my perspective. What do you mean automated?
So I'm automated, meaning I use Real Simple Syndication and I use like Realtor Magazine or Style Staged and Sold because I know it's coming from the National Association of Realtors and it's safe. So I'm automated. I use a tool called Hootsuite, and when someone writes an article, I automatically post to my real estate business page or the company page or
So
LinkedIn.
So are you
So
saying that you can
it's
go
scheduled.
into the system, set a calendar schedule for like tomorrow, even though you're in another place? And it just
Yes. So
happens.
I'll say it like this. When I use Real Simple Syndication, I'm posting when they create the blog post. So I don't have to schedule it. But when you talk about scheduling, even like when we create these podcasts or YouTube videos, we're recording. Typically you're up at 5 a.m. on Sunday and I'm up at 7 a.m. on Sunday, and we pre-recorded content for our platforms, and we're somewhere else. To the point where someone was like, I was listening to the podcast and I was chatting, and I was like, oh, I said, you do know that was pre-recorded on the YouTube. He was like, no wonder you weren't answering. So when he said that, I was like, okay, because we live streamed it scheduled. So you can use Real Simple Syndication to post. You can use, and if you want to learn more about what we do, sign up for one of our classes. So you could use Real Simple Syndication to automatically post RSS feeds. You can even pre-schedule content right in Facebook or even on Instagram or even on LinkedIn and Canva. Like, you can pre-schedule all of your content. You can also pre-schedule videos and pre-schedule them to automatically post, like on YouTube, like the premiere date. Like, every Wednesday I create content and it posts on YouTube. It just posts. It's there. There's a countdown. It's not live. And you could also go live, but not be there. Like, you could literally, so that's what we do with these videos, is it's pre-recorded, but the lives are scheduled for another time. That gives people time to prepare to go watch them, as opposed to when I send an e-blast on Friday mornings for my 9:05 Coffee with Carrie, I'm trying to get more people in the space right then. That's a whole nother conversation. That's a whole digital marketing strategy, but people know that I'm going to be there. So it's pre-planned, but I'm actually live. So a lot of times people will say, Carrie, man, I don't know how you do it. It's because you schedule time. In the entrepreneur space, we get up every day to earn a paycheck. So I have to plan out my work, just like when you like a teacher plans out their lesson plan. They plan what they're going to teach. I plan out what we're going to talk about, or we plan out what we're going to talk about. We record it and then we schedule it. Maybe there's about 3 more steps in that.
Okay. Because what I heard is, like, because you could schedule it on some system where it's like, it just will show up at a certain time. But so your social media brain is way different than mine. Like, I know that there are platforms, like I know Canva. If I have something on Canva, I can schedule it like on Twitter. I can schedule it on LinkedIn, or I
And
can go
Facebook.
directly in LinkedIn, or even and schedule something. And I could do that. I could just keep scheduling for the whole week, or I could schedule it in one place where to go to Twitter. And like Twitter, I can schedule calendar invite. And what's that? And Restream. Like, I have recorded stuff.
I'm not trying to tell them what I'm using. I just figured they could come back and see me later.
Yeah. Well, what I'm saying is that the social media isn't just social media anymore. Social media is telling the story of a community. It's giving people access to what is happening even in a school site, because all of these things that are happening in the world, people feel unsafe, kids don't feel safe, teachers don't feel safe, real estate agents don't feel safe, or people buying homes are like, I don't feel safe. But if you tell the story, and people don't um people don't care about what you do. They don't. They only care that you care.
And
So
what you care, that you're listening. What can how can you help them? Like, at the end, and I mean, there are times when people, they don't care about you. They already have a connection and they're going to go somewhere else no matter what. But that means they care about that relationship. So there's truth in, if you are creating this. This is why, if we were to go back to the previous conversation around the natives, the digital natives versus the us, the Gen X, we could even throw millennials in, the millennials, the Gen Xers, the baby boomers, and the silent generation. This is why using technology or social media is important, because you can tell the story. You can set the narrative. You can tell people what you want them to know about who you are. There's some people in our space that do a really good job of, it's not just, here are the 10 steps of home ownership, but it's showing the life of what it's like to own property versus renting, and the realities of, if you rent, you could easily pay off somebody else's mortgage, or the realities of not having anything of your own, and now you're 65. Because I've worked with clients that didn't think they could own a home, because they were first generational buyers, and no one had the conversation with them. the thing about social media is I can create content. Our generation and older, they watch us because when they see me in person, they're like, Carrie, boy, Mark, he just makes my day. Because I had a friend and client call me the other day and wanted to talk to an attorney and a lender. So we were having a conversation. She was like, "Oh my gosh, you guys make my day," but she never ever comments. So if you're not creating content, you could easily be, you might not be relevant. So in the business world, if you're not the if you didn't have a brand before social media, you got to figure out how to create a brand, because you got Coca-Cola, you've got Pepsi, you've got Nike, you've got for you've got all of these businesses that had, like, we Southwest Airlines, United Airlines, they already had a brand pre-social media. Now the value of social media is, even with Jonathan, he's not going to be an NBA star, but he was a gymnast, he played baseball, he played basketball. And I videotaped him, and he was good, but he went into gaming and that's what he does. But had he decided he wanted to go into the NBA, good student, you can't teach height, 6'5", everybody knows him. The value of social media is it can skyrocket your brand in minutes. And a good example of that is just what happened with the WNBA and women's basketball. We got Caitlin Clark,
Yeah.
who, I mean, she just got, I think, a $28 million Nike deal, and her salary in the WNBA will be like $76,000 because women don't get paid as much. Now, there's truth in people just don't come to the women's sports like they go to men. So let's just go with it is what it is, because they need sponsorships, they need people to buy tickets, they need people to show up, we need to sell out, we need to have standing room only, like you can't get in. But think of, because she became so good, and there's some other players that are really good. We're proud of our folks over here that came to the Sky basketball team. But here I wasn't going to these basketball games. Like, I'm going to Chicago
Yeah, but you
Bears,
got to see her in person because you have a friend that has a
whose daughter's on the
child
same
there.
team. So we were like, we get to go because they're sold out. Iowa University, the Hawkeyes are sold out. And I'm struggling because I went to Iowa State, like, I got to put this shirt on, but you wanted to see it in action, and she is just as entertaining in action. Right. So I'm sure I said
But
a
see,
lot, but the value
no,
of, but
the
let me
value,
say, let me finish my thoughts. So the value of she's got the real TV. It's all on real TV. But if you go to social media, she's huge on social media. So you've got the natives that are using this. Now what she has done for the little girl, she has, and she's telling her story on the news, so the parents get to see it, and then the kids are already like, "Oh, mom, I already watch her because I'm going to be Caitlin Clark when I grow up."
and she's inspirational. I mean, and a good
Right.
student. So it's not like that's the part that you can. I'm gonna give you this word. It was in one of the books that I've read before, and you can do hard things. Things things are hard, but you have to reclaim the language. Like, you can do hard things. But when we always think, like, social media for me was like this abstract, like, what? Like, and you were
Right.
like, Mina, you got to get out there. You need to go live. I remember the first time. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I still, like, I think about it. I went live on Instagram, but and I just was like, I had my wall behind me was white. I was like, you were like, just talk to the camera. It's hard. It's hard because it's not comfortable. It's hard because you don't even know if someone's there, and if no one's there, you still need to talk as if someone's there. The first time I did a YouTube, I mean, Gary V, some of these other people, Jade, Millie, all these people that I watched, even Dr. Ramani on YouTube, these great people on YouTube, they had to start somewhere. They're telling their story. And yes, they could edit and do all these things, but Dr. Ramani, she from the beginning to the end, bam. And she has a bestseller book, and she's like, I am
What is she,
so
but tell the story, Alma. What does she look like, and how did she appear when she first started doing video? Was she comfortable? Was Gary Vaynerchuk comfortable? Tell that story.
no, no. And even, no, they weren't, not only were they not comfortable, they were like, and there was, the lighting was bad, or the the environment wasn't appealing, but they did it anyway. That's what I learned from them. Everybody starts somewhere. My first job, I had to learn something. My first teaching career, and every year teachers feel the same way. Principals do too. The week before school starts, you can't sleep. Oh my gosh, I'm getting a new student. I got to start all over. I'm going to bet every time a real estate agent takes out a new client that and they're new at it, they got all these feelings.
Oh, they're like, what do I do? I'm like, just go. You're gonna mess up. Bye. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, there's rules,
It's
so you
like
don't want to
push
break the
them into the
law.
water, right? And that's how it felt. And the first
Sink
time
or
you and I
swim.
went
Let's
live
go.
together, you were like, at the end, you're like, Mina, you look like a robot. I'm like, I don't know what
But
to do with
listen,
that.
but
I don't
I
even
mean,
know what to do
you've
with that.
improved over the years, but even today, you're more educated space like,
Academia,
and I have a
personal.
little bit of leverage, and let me explain. Like when I say I have more leverage, it's because I have been teaching to adults. Not that you don't teach, but I'm not, I'm teaching in the continuing ed space, and I used to edit television, and I would be behind the scenes for a radio show, writing what they were going to talk about, or even just telling them, okay, just next time do this, like relax. Like I got to learn that
You said
you
do
know
this.
what it was like to just talk. And I even got to learn, like I even took, not just took classes, but I took small classes on how to make sure my arms were not loose, or how to make sure, what it was when I would, when we were on stage, they would talk about being big. They would talk about not just coming in, like they would talk about, like when you're doing, you have to think about smiling, but you have to figure out how to not think about smiling, but make sure you're smiling. Or and so again, I used to edit television. Come on in. Go back and watch, and I'll come find you in a minute, okay? I'm almost finished, dude. Grandbaby.
I'm done watching.
Okay, go find Papa. So
He went to the airport.
no, not yet. He's upstairs.
How do you know?
Because
And
he's
this is a part of social media or going live or
okay,
whatever.
go find him for me. Go
where
find
this
a
is
great
real
grandma.
life.
So so again, I was behind the scenes in television. I could see, I knew what that was like. I would, even as simple as teaching adults how to use computers, I would just have conversations with people. And when I became the expert at something, it got easier for me to teach. And one thing I think it was maybe 2013 when I taught my first continuing ed class, I realized that I had to go back and study. And then when I started, it got easier to do video. So I've been in this space for so long that you could literally put me on a panel and I could just talk. I could go live, and it's me. This is what I'm like in public. Like I don't straighten up. I don't, I mean, like if I'm being interviewed, I could easily straighten up a little bit and be a little more polished, but I'm just me. And I don't, like, you become a little more polished, where because you're come from the education space.
Well, and I'm in front of boards and superintendents and in the
You even
academia.
change, you even code switch.
And okay, that's a thing. And but that and people have feelings around code switching. However, there's a few books on that, and we're not there yet. We're not there in a space where you have to be what people need you to be. And sometimes authenticity means be authentic the way they want you to be authentic. So,
And
and that's what I'm learning. And you can write that down. You can take that.
I mean,
one.
we both experienced it, because that'll be a whole conversation another day. That some people, as much as I want to tell you about you, or as much as I want to go on social media, because this is talk on social media, there's something about, I'm my authentic me every Friday at 9:05 a.m. I am my authentic me, but I have to choose what I say, to the point where if Mark and I go live, because he's this authentic him all the time, there's some content that I won't leave, because he's, my goal is to be in leadership one day, and he might.
Well,
still be
you're in leadership because you lead a group of agents. Um, but you mean from a different space in that.
right, and not everybody is, I'm not saying I'm going to go out and say something dumb, but I'm saying sometimes Mark is always fun and joking, but there are times when, I'm like, yeah, no, somebody, you don't hurt somebody's feelings, even though I know I've known you since high school. So yeah. So So what do you think, when we talk about social media and just talking about it, what do you think you've learned from social media, or what do you think what do you think you've learned from being consistent on social media? Like, what are you thinking?
Um, you know what? I've learned that social media, LinkedIn, Twitter is the new digital resume. And
But you said social media, Twitter and LinkedIn is the new digital resume.
and just so those places, and Instagram and TikTok and YouTube and Facebook and Snapchat, all of the
And
places.
would you say new, or would you say social media is
It's not
digital
new.
resume?
It is the resume, and because you can put out the story that you want people to know. And I mean, we know that some stories need to be said because somebody needs to hear it. We know that because of TikTok and Risa Tisa. We know that because of the idea of TikTok possibly going away. We know that because we want to know what's happening. Honestly, I don't how you may turn on the news for noise, for example, in the background. I typically don't in the morning because I'm like, but I might turn it on in the evening. But how many times do you find I find the hurricane news, the tornado news, the oh my gosh, what happened at a school site news on TikTok or usually TikTok, um, faster than I do other places. I learned about the whole idea of the issue with Congress, for example, with TikTok because of TikTok, because he told the story. Like he told the story where people could, and we want to know these stories because it makes people human. And the part of social media that is not human, or the generative AIs, is because people code it. But we get the privilege of telling our story, and it's not going away.
So
And that's
we could one day we could talk about, there could be the fake story, the real story, and your story. But you're right. Like, I turn on the news every morning. I like the happy news. Not everything is happy, but I can go hear what's happening when they talk about what's happening in the real estate industry with the National Association of Realtors. But then I can go tell the story and redirect people back to the facts, because the news is not, they're telling the story, it's not the story. And so I can be the person that shares the story. And because I am involved, I have to be careful about how what I say, because there's a lot I want to say, but I could literally just send you back to the facts and what's available for people to read. And I'm even telling even our agents, I'm like, send a direct mail piece, old school, to your clients, or call your clients and say, hey, I'm calling you just to have a touch, because you're probably watching the news and you want to know what's happening with the industry. So I have the facts open. I'm going to send you an email. Let's talk about it. Because then you can change the narrative and what happens when the consumer calls you to put your home on the market, whereas the news is saying what they're saying. And
Yeah, and the news is there
come see
to
me on
do
social
just
media.
that. It's there to get your brain going, and it goes down negative rabbit hole because keeps people engaged. It's a
And
gossip place, and
and it's
unfortunately,
like the
it keeps people
reality,
watch.
and it's ratings, and it's getting sponsors, and I'm not here to talk about the news. I'd have to go do my research, but the way the news changed decades ago, and we're not going to go down this rabbit hole, but the news changed decades ago when OJ Simpson was on the highway running from the police. So I'm not going to get into that, but it changed they had so many people watching the news that they realized that they needed to go talk about the controversy, why we have real estate reality TV or reality TV. We have people want to see what's happening in real life. We have Shark Tanks, we have American Idol, we've got all
People
these shows.
standing in hurricanes.
Why would we do that? Like, we're like, but
There's a tornado right there. Like, oh my gosh.
people want the drama. And then, because even Jonathan, who was just in here kind of sneaking in, I was like, Jonathan, how do I go viral on TikTok? And he was like, Mom, you're boring. I was like, I'm boring. He was like, yeah. And then he kind of gave me some strategy, which one day we can come talk about. But I was like, people they want the fun, they want the
Yeah.
fun. And
one, I'm just gonna tell
Or
you.
they want to go see us do something stupid so they could, call us a whale. Cause I had somebody call me a seal or something.
Oh, and
And
because of that beautiful scenery pool thing. So
right.
yesterday, I was on TikTok. I was posting a video, but right after I posted the video, I the next thing that came up was people in their car. And like this is a new trend. They had the wife was in the driver's seat, and she was like, she's put her hair up, and I was in tears laughing because she was like, "Oh, it's on. Really, Michelle? You want to?" She was talking to no one behind her, started fighting the person behind her, got in the back seat fighting this pretend person, and her husband started getting water, calling it holy water. But it made me laugh so hard that it was entertaining. Like these are people that normally wouldn't have told this. I mean, it I still I kept it and saved it because it made me laugh. It made me motivated to go, okay, I got this. Let me go finish what I'm doing. But I chuckle. Like it's those stories. And then there are some sad stories. And it was just like they were a happy couple. And it was real to him, but she was doing a great performance.
And let's say what if it wasn't real and it was staged? Because
It was staged,
you know,
but he did a good job, even if it was staged. It was
how,
so
but
funny.
that's what people like the entertainment. Because even like with Mark and I, what people don't know is like I'll post content on social media because it's always the debate of shopping because Walmart has stepped their game up, and I for in April because April's our birthday month. I was like, I want a birthday present every day, and so
Have you got one
um
every day?
no, but we were telling Mark was like, well, you just shop anyway. So one day I'm working in here, he comes in the office and he's like, what's this? And he looks at me and he just drops the bag and walks out. I was like, can you do that again? The same way. So what people don't know is this really happened. And it may not but it could be a replay because I'm like, wait a minute, Mark, you got to do that again. And it might not be 100% the same, but I'm not really catching him. It's not candid camera, but it is something he did, and people just want to see it. And I have people in person that'll say, Carrie, you and Mark make my day. So the truth
No,
is,
he's like that all the time. And when I'm there, I'm like, I can't, it hurts so much to laugh that you almost have to walk out because he is on like that all the time. So imagine if it was
there are
real.
times where he's not like he's like I'm like, so what's your day like? Like I can tell he's thinking about stuff and he just doesn't know how to communicate it. But I mean, like literally, if
He's
you
still
see
funny.
us do something, it is probably because like the other day we got 3,500 views, which it might get to thousands, where he randomly we walked into Michael Kors and he was like, um I need you to listen to me. And I was like, I'm gonna need you to do it again. And he literally, the second time he did it, we had the neighbor with us, and he was like, and I got security. Mark pulled out his fake Rick Ross chain. Like I was like, he's he could. I'm like, you should do stand-up comedy, but I don't think he could do it off the cuff like that. I think he would get nervous. That's what but
Well,
people, social media, people they want real life. They want to be entertained. And do they want to learn from us? Yes, because people come and learn from me all the time. They may not comment about the data, the market update. They may not comment about me telling you about if you're going to go buy a home, here's my story about why you don't need to rent and why you should own. They want to hear it, but I won't know that they are watching until they call me or direct message. Because so there's truth in people want to learn, they want to be entertained, they want to see you. They really do want to see you, even if you don't want to do it.
and what I learned
Because
is
I
that
was making you
just
do
do
it
it and stop worrying about what people say. Stop worrying about it
because
because
I'm fixing you every day. I'm fixing out. I mean, in my, what I mean is because I've been doing it so long. I'm like,
no, I finally
okay,
had to get over that. I was like, okay, let me just take
but no,
notes.
I still don't tell you
Feeling about
everything. If you would let me be your for real coach, I think I can make you blow up on social media. But I just, I'll wait you
Okay,
ask
I'm gonna
me.
let you be my for real coach and see how that goes.
But you just
I
can't
just
get mad
know
at me.
that I'm learning that I'm just uncomfortable sometimes, and I'm just gonna do it. And it has changed who I am when it comes to presenting on Zoom. Like I had that privilege of presenting for one of your real estate affiliates, whatever. I don't know
Oh,
what
no, not whatever. Let me help everybody. My local association, Main Street Realtors, had my sister come and talk about decoding AI bias. They gave you the title, but this is something you talk about in the education space anyway. Um, and I think the video might still be there on Main Street Realtors Facebook page. It's still there. I do believe they're going to probably take it down, but if you wanted to check it out, what we'll do in the meantime, while it is still available, I'll put it in the podcast feed and on the YouTube description.
But if they want to see
Or
it,
you
they
could
need
just
to become
invest
a member
in
of Main
Mila's
Street,
course.
right? Well,
Yeah.
no, it was such a privilege, and people were like, great speaker. And I had not listened to some of your just do it and it'll one day feel better. It's kind of like any industry, whether you're starting out at the beginning, nobody is perfect the first time. No one ever, you don't, practice does not make perfect. It makes more proficient. It makes consistency. No one's perfect. No one.
You just
But
have to do it.
you have to
So
start somewhere.
and the win is behind start and be consistent. And that means post once a month on social media. Once a month. That's 12 months of content, or post once a week on social media. That's 52 weeks of content. Or you could multiply that by 3, post 3 times a week. Or you could literally say, I'm going to commit to posting video on social media every single day for 365 days, and then go back, and then you have the story to tell on what that was like. If you don't know what to say, remember, people want your authentic you. Let me say this to everybody that's watching. That does not mean go and put your clients on blast. That does not mean go talk about the nasty teacher. That does not mean say, oh, I had this client. That does not mean, let me tell you about this client I had yesterday, because the client you had yesterday is going to watch it. What you could do is, if something crazy happens in any arena, is get out a journal, get out a digital journal, like go get something. And then when something happens, write it all out. And then you can come back and talk about it in a way where it's not offensive. Because I see people all the time in real estate, and if you're listening to the podcast and you watch me, and I'll see someone say, oh, when someone calls me and it's when someone calls and the contract is signed and we're ready to close, the consumer thinks, oh, you're just taking my money. So I'm just here to tell you, pause and say, when you create content in any space, ask someone what they think about what the outcome could be. Because some of us post that kind of content, and the consumer, I'm like, let me tell you, because the other day I had someone showing their electric car on social media and how it was driving for them. I'm like, you just are giving, if you get into an accident, you told us what you're doing. I'm like, pause and go, what is the outcome? Because I had someone say, Carrie, when I go to showings, I'm going to show all the crazy things in listings, and I'm going to go talk about the dumb stuff I see. I said, let's talk about that. Whose house is it? What do you mean? I'm like, who owns the house? Like the owner. I said, so if you have something stupid or dumb in your house of what someone else thinks, would you want somebody else posting about it? She was like, didn't think about that. And the fact that someone else has the right to market it, like, pause. So, Amina, let me ask you this. Let me let you sum that up in the education space, and then I'll come back and ask you, what are your 2 to 3 takeaways of what you learned in social media? But talk about, like, how
That
could that
happens in education. It happens where teachers will be like, oh my gosh, this student. Now, if it happened 5-10 years ago, and you're
take notes?
helping people, like this happened to me in education, like that. Like I had a parents that came to my classroom, and they were upset because their child got in trouble for cheating, and they cornered me, meaning they were backing me into my. Now, had I not been who I am, that could have scared people. And considering this day and age, that might be something I could talk about that's helpful. I was able to maneuver, walk out and say, let's go talk about that. Let's go find an office and have that conversation. But I knew what to say. However, and even as a principal, I've had crazy stuff happen. As an assistant principal, I had parents fighting before prom. Just the whole thing happened. But I couldn't say that the next day. Like, oh, I mean, they have the right to their privacy, and these people are adults now, but you wouldn't have a perspective of what school that was. None, because I worked at high schools, I worked in Illinois, Ohio, and California. So you wouldn't know. However, what you have to be cognizant, because what you say will come back to you. So if it's not helpful, like there are teachers out there that have permission from families, they will record themselves with students in the background. They only see this, and they are engaging, and the kids love it. And but it's helpful. Like, is this helpful? What's the end result? And well, let me start. Could this possibly be harmful? How is it helpful? And what's the outcome you're looking for? Like, and if you wanted to, those three things, no matter what industry you're in, you have to be able to keep the end in mind. You have to be able to keep the end in mind. And you have to know that even when you're on social media, your dogs might bark in the background if you're live. You might have conversations like, your adult children might come in, your grandchild might come in, and you need to be available. You need to be ready to be like, digital shadow, don't come in the video. Unless that is a thing and you already have permission for that.
So what are 2 to 3 things you would say you learned from being in the digital space, or using social media, or maybe even let's go. What are 3 things you learned, and maybe what you're considering your favorite platform is today?
Okay, so the first thing I've learned is that people are going to tell you how they feel about you online. They're going to make you feel some type of way, and because I'm a Gen Xer, I realize that that's who they are. Not a big deal. I don't need to listen to that. That's not me. But people today, you have young children that will be traumatized by it. That you might need to. You have to be aware of what you're putting out there, and if you have kids, parents, teachers, that's why we need to educate them. That's one. Like, you have to be aware of that outcome. Two, get comfortable with the uncomfortable. I feel
So what
like
did you learn from that? So what
I
did you learn from
that's what
that?
I mean. Being comfortable with being uncomfortable. I learned that I got past what my feelings about. I just go. And I learned that I got better over time. I learned, if you go and look at some of my older videos, it's just like I just taught it. Now I'm more personal. I learned to add some of my own authenticity that is respectful of the education community, and it's helpful. I learned also, lastly, that there are people out there, and it kind of relates to number one, that don't like that I'm on social media. They don't like it. And I'm going to say that I'm part of a bell curve called the innovators. And if we don't get in front of it, and I don't learn how to do this, how can I help? Why would students or teachers believe that I can help them with social media and understand how to help their children, whether you're a leader at the school site or a leader in a district, if I can't model it? That, to me, you have to be the role model for social media. And even if you have someone help you in a school district, communications officer, somebody like you that already knows how to edit things, because when the crazy happens and you get in front of a camera, because you now have to address a community because the crazy happened, are you going to be your authentic self for the community? Or are you going to be like, well, today this, just, robotic? And so I learned those things.
So what I learned from social media was that it I that people, they make their own perceptions about who you are on social media, and the biggest one, my biggest takeaway is folks think I'm too busy. And so I now have to come and create content around, I'm scheduled, and a lot of my content is scheduled. And if you see me live, it might be scheduled, it might not be scheduled. And typically my lives on Fridays are scheduled, and I'm actually there because I'm having a conversation with people, and they can tell that I'm having a conversation. So I have to now pretty much change the narrative and help people understand that even if you see that I posted that I'm out of state, I might not be out of state, because the rule is we don't always post when we're actually where we are, because we don't want people to break in our homes. We don't want you to know that we're gone. So for me, I learned that people are going to determine who you are based on social media. But on the flip side, it has created the persona of Carrie's the expert. So my number two would be, because of social media, I am my own broadcaster and I'm the news, or I am the person that's creating the content that people want to consume. And people will now come see me in person and say, Carrie, oh my gosh, it's you. Like, I've created when you see like someone famous online in person, we like, oh my gosh, it's Michael Jordan, and you're like, you don't even know what to say. Like, people do that to me now, and I want it. And if you are that person and you see me, just come talk to me. I am the same way in person. If you see me and I'm staring somewhere and I pass you up and you're like, oh, can I talk to her? Yeah, you can talk to me. It's just, I'm convinced that there are some of us that are not diagnosed ADD, that we put blinders on and it's not intentional. So come talk to me. So social media has given me it has shown me that I am considered the expert. And my number three of all of that is when you become consistent on social media, even if you're afraid, is people you will get opportunities for interviews. You will get opportunities to be in the magazine. You will get more opportunity to be hired for something because you're on social media. If you're a real estate agent, hired to sell someone's home. If you're a business owner, get interviewed in a news outlet. Do your research and learn how to have a conversation if you're going to be on the news. But I would say to anyone, it'll change the game because you are the broadcaster and you're changing the narrative. Think about me in 2001 when I was selling real estate. I had to walk the neighborhood. I had to cold call. I had to do direct mailers. I had to go outside. I had to meet with people or I had to call my friends so they would allow me to help them buy or sell property. Today, social media, although I still think you need relationships, change the game, and it'll help people decide if they want to work with you or not. So with that being said, I am Carrie Little, the designated managing broker of Caramark Realty Group in Illinois and Florida. If you want to find me on social media, I'm literally Carrie Jo Little everywhere. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel, check out all of my playlist, and this is my twin sister.
I'm Dr. Mina Blasey, and yes, check out my social media channels. I'm everywhere. I am Mina J. Blasey, and on YouTube, MJ Blasey. And we are so glad that you joined us. Thank you so much for listening or watching, or if you're watching, and come back often.